Early on a Sunday morning, April 18th, 2010, a woman was walking down the street in Queens, New York. A man began to follow her, came up to her from behind, and attacked her. From nowhere appeared a Good Samaritan, a 31-year-old homeless Guatemalan refugee. He approached the attacker and prevented him from harming the woman. But the attacker stabbed the Good Samaritan many times. The woman fled. The attacker ran off, and the Good Samaritan tried to chase him until he himself collapsed on the sidewalk, bleeding to death. A minute later, another potential Good Samaritan came by and saw the man lying on the sidewalk in a pool of his own blood. The man walked by without helping. Another potential Good Samaritan came along, looked at the dying man, and walked away. So began a procession of over 20 people who walked by the dying man and did not lift a finger to help. All this was captured on surveillance camera. One of the passers-by actually took out his cell phone, but instead of dialing 911, used it to take a picture of the dying man. Another nudged him and rolled him over twice, saw the growing pool of blood, then walked away. Not until an hour and a half later did someone finally call for help. By that time, the man was dead. What a cruel irony that this Good Samaritan could find in all of New York no second Samaritan to help him. The next day, a visitor saw this on the news and remarked, "Is anyone human anymore? What is wrong with humanity?" What indeed is wrong with humanity? Why do we refuse to help one another? This was a Sunday morning. We can assume that some of these people were on their way to church. Yet they passed the dying man without lifting a finger. In the original story of the Good Samaritan, it was a Samaritan who helped a Jewish man. Those two groups hated each other. They spoke differently, thought differently, prayed differently. The Jews hated the Samaritans, and the Samaritans hated the Jews. Yet this one rose above that and was willing to help. Jesse Jackson used to say, "Never look down on anybody unless you're helping him up." On that Sunday morning in Queens, no one looked down upon this dying man to help him up. It may surprise us to find in the Good Samaritan story that one of those who did nothing was a priest. We need not be surprised. The priest was probably going off to teach about love. But the prominent social psychologist Eric Hofer points out, it is much easier to love humanity in general than it is to love one's neighbor. What about us? Perhaps we are not filled with prejudice or hatred, but why do we not stop and help a person in need? In 1973, a classic study was performed at Princeton, the famous Good Samaritan research. The doctors assigned a whole group of theology students to preach about the Good Samaritan on the other side of the campus. They told some of these students that they were already late and that they had better hurry up and get there. Unbeknownst to the students, The doctors had hired an actor to be on the path the students would be taking to get to their sermon. This actor was doubled over in pain, shrieking in agony and coughing, obviously in need of help. A full 90% of those theology students on their way to preach about the Good Samaritan refused to help this man because they were in a hurry. According to the final report, more than one of them physically stepped over the victim as they hurried off to their task. That probably describes most of us. It's not out of prejudice or hatred that we don't stop to help someone. It's just that this help does not fit into our schedule. It was not included in our plans. Martin Luther King said, "The first question which the priest and the Levite asked was, 'If I stop to help this man, what will happen to me?' But the Good Samaritan reversed the question. 'If I do not stop and help this man, what will happen to him?'" Like the priest on the road to Jericho, like the seminarians hurrying across campus, like the Sunday morning neighbors in Queens, how often do we too neglect to help someone? How many times do we too step over or even step on people in need of our help, in need of our smile, in need of our love? How many times do our own needs, our own schedules, our own hatreds and prejudices trump the compassion which we as human beings by nature feel for another human being? In the Nuremberg trials following World War II, the classic excuse given for perpetrating the most horrendous atrocities was, "I was only doing my job." How often do we reverse that question to justify refusing to help? It's not my job. Love is always our job. There is no moment of our earthly existence when love is not our task, when love is not the entire reason for our being. Love must overcome not only our hatreds, our prejudices, but must overcome our own agenda, our own race with time, our own hurried life. Love must overcome our self-filled self. It is only then that it can truly be called love. It is only then that we can be called truly human. It is only then that we truly begin to live.